Hey Joe fans, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to the Kamado Joe cooking channel. Today we're finally going to do something I've been wanting to do for you guys for a long time. I've got a nice big fat pork belly from Snake River Farms and we are going to make some homemade bacon. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we've got to do to get started making this bacon is put together our curing rub. And what we're going to do, I've got a mixing bowl here. We're going to start out. I've got 1/4 cup of kosher salt. I've got 2 teaspoons of pink curing salt. And in my case, I use this stuff called Prague Powder #1. This is fairly easy to find. Then we've got 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. I've got 1 tablespoon of crushed red pepper flakes, 2 tablespoons of sweet paprika, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of ground coriander, 1/4 teaspoon of ground allspice. And I'm just going to take my whisk and we're going to mix that all together. And the star of our show today is going to be this really big Snake River Farms pork belly. This is about 8 pounds or so of Kurabuta pork from Snake River Farms that we are going to unpackage here. I'm going to take the cryovac off of this. We're going to rinse it and pat it dry, and then I'm going to trim it up just a little bit. Okay, I know I just said I was going to trim this down a little bit, but man, this thing looks so beautiful. This Snake River Farms pork is absolutely gorgeous. I'm not going to trim this down a bit. We're going to work with this thing whole. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to poke into this a little bit, which will help get our curing salts and our curing rub all the way into the meat more quickly. And then we're going to start putting that on the meat. And to do that, to get started, I've got about 1/4 cup here of some pure maple syrup. So I'm going to pour some of that onto this meat. We're going to use all of it, but I'm just going to rub a nice coat of that on the meat so we can sprinkle our rub on there and get it to adhere nicely. And we're going to use all of that rub also. We're not going to leave any of that behind. So we're going to get a good coat all over each side of this meat. We're just going to pat that on good, and then we're going to flip it over and do the same thing. We're going to coat this side with some of this pure maple syrup, and then we're going to shake on the rest of our rub. And I'm going to spread that out there evenly, and I'm just going to pat it on, and I'm going to let this sit here for about 10 minutes or so to let that adhere really well before we go to our next step. And our next step is going to be to put this in you can either put this in about a 2-gallon Ziplock bag, or you can put it in a vacuum seal bag, either one. And I'm going to put this one in a vacuum seal bag here in just a moment. Okay, I've got this pork belly in my vacuum seal bag. I'm just going to dump in that last little bit of maple syrup that I had left over. And then we're going to put this in the vacuum sealer and seal it up. You don't have to worry about getting a tight seal or a very tight vacuum on this, because it needs a little bit of air to move around. So we're just going to hit it, seal it up. We're going to let it stop about right there, and I'm going to hit the seal button. And now this guy's got to go in the refrigerator for 8 to 10 days. And I'm probably going to shoot for about 10 days on this. And every day as I go by the refrigerator, I'm just going to open the refrigerator up and flip this guy so it keeps rotating and keeps getting all of the seasonings, all of our curing salts, keep moving around in the bag with this meat. So we're going to do that for, like I said, 10 days. And I'll see you then. Okay guys, we have been in the refrigerator with this guy curing for 9 days. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to take this out of the vacuum seal bag or your Ziplocs or whatever kind of bag you've got this in, and we're going to rinse it off in cold water. We're going to rinse it completely, and then we're going to bring it back here and pat it dry. So let me get that done and we'll be right back. Okay, now I've got this guy rinsed off completely and patted dry with a towel, and I've set it on a rack here. And what we're going to do now is I am going to put this in the refrigerator and just let it stay in the refrigerator like this, unwrapped, overnight for at least 12 hours. So that will put us into the morning where we're going to come back and we're actually going to get this thing on the grill and we're going to smoke it. So we've got one more step to do before we smoke it. We're going to do some additional things to the meat, so we're going to put it in the fridge and we'll be back in the morning. Okay, I've got a fresh load of charcoal in my Big Joe, and I've got one Kamado Joe fire starter cube down here in the middle of this. So I'm going to light this up and we're going to let this burn for about 10 minutes or so with the lid open. Okay, after we get our fire going, I have put my divide and conquer flexible cooking rack in place, and we're going to be cooking low and slow today, but I'm also going to load up a good bit of smoking wood here. I'm going to put about 4 chunks of maple, of the Kamado Joe maple smoking wood in here, and I'm also going to put about 3 chunks of our hickory wood. We're going to put a good bit of smoke to this bacon. And then I'm going to load up my heat deflectors down here in the lowest position. And then I'm going to put each half of my grill grate in the upper position. And we're going to be shooting for a cooking temperature today between 200 and 225 degrees. And in order to get a temperature that low, I'm going to close my lower vent to an opening of about maybe an inch. And on the upper vent, I'm going to close the slider all the way, and we're just going to crack the top. And we're going to let this come up to temperature, and if I need to warm the grill up, I'm going to open the daisy wheel a little more. If we need to cool it down, I'm going to close it. So we're going to slowly let this guy come up to around 200 degrees. While our grill's coming up to temperature, I'm going to put together a little seasoning rub to go on the outside of this pork belly. We're going to start with 1/4 cup of freshly cracked black pepper, 1 tablespoon of paprika, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, and about 1/2 teaspoon of ground clove. So I'm going to take my whisk and we're just going to mix this up. I've taken the pork belly out of the refrigerator and I'm going to drizzle on some maple syrup just a little bit, and I'm going to smear that thinly all over this side of the meat, and then we're going to shake on some of that seasoning rub we just put together. And I'm just going to pat that in, and then we're going to flip this over and do the same thing on the other side. And then we're just going to let this sit while our grill comes up to temperature. Okay guys, our grill is just about up to temperature, so we've got a good bit of smoke rolling here. We're going to open it up. We're going to put this pork belly right in the middle of the Big Joe. And we're going to close the lid and we're going to cook this to an internal temperature, like I said, of 150 degrees. I'm not exactly sure how long that's going to take. So we'll start the timer and we'll figure that out. So we're going to be back close to time to take this off. Okay guys, we've been going right at about 3 hours here, and this guy's looking beautiful. You can see how nice a color that thing's got on. I'm going to take this off the grill. I'm going to set it on a cutting board, and I'm just going to loosely tin it with foil, and we're going to let it rest for about 30 minutes or so. And then we're going to put it in the refrigerator and chill this guy completely before we break it down to slice it. So I'll meet you when we get ready to slice. Okay guys, I've chilled this down completely, and I've sliced it in half here so you can get an idea of what the texture of this meat looks like. I'm going to work on slicing this up, and then we're going to cook some of it and have a taste. Okay guys, I've got a pan good and hot here. We're going to put 2 thick slices of this in and see what happens. Oh man, I just flipped this stuff over. I wish you could smell this. It smells amazing. We'll let this cook down just a little bit more. It's almost ready to go. Okay guys, it's time to give this bacon a try. I've torn these in half and let's see what we got. Man. Guys, this Snake River Farms Curaboda pork belly is really amazing. It has a beautiful flavor, beautiful texture, beautiful meat grain, a beautiful fat grain. It's really a fantastic piece. I can't wait to do a lot of different things with this bacon. I'm going to slice all this up. I'm going to package it individually, and I'm going to have some good bacon around here for quite a while. I'm going to share some of this with some friends and family. You're going to have to give this a try. Give it a try and let me know what you think. We're going to do another bacon project coming up before too terribly long, and I'll let you have some more details on that a little bit later. So join us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Kamado Joe. Follow us on Twitter @Kamado Joe. And until next time, this is John Setzler with Kamado Joe Cooking Channel.